What is up, DTube? Today I want to talk about a concept that I want to call Will HEX launch a money print bull run of 2021? And I want to explain what I mean with that. So one of the core philosophies that it seems has been in crypto a very, very long time, and one of the core philosophies that maybe you can say Bitcoin started, was this concept of building a digital gold, or building a better version of gold, or maybe building something that is not the way banks did it. And that is one philosophy that we're still kind of stuck with at the moment in 2020. Like this kind of core belief system of the Bitcoiners, that they are doing something way different than the banks, and that they have, or that they're doing some visual version of digital gold. I sort of see that Hex is launching a computing era time of money printing in virtual tokens, where we're kind of moving from one story to another story. And the Bitcoin story that hasn't worked out that well was this concept of we're going to have virtual scarcity, and the printing is very, very bad. Now, Hex is seems to be more realistic of looking at it as, well, maybe we should just take one of the features that the feature that has been working for banks for decades, which is this aspect of, well, let's also print, and let's just copy what the banks have done with one of their most popular product, the certificate of deposit product, where you lock up value and then you get more later. Now, this was not the core philosophy of Bitcoiners. They do not like the aspect of taking a feature that the bank is doing and doing it in a crypto fashion. The way the Bitcoiners are looking at things is, and they've been really trying to push this narrative of, especially now when nobody's really using Bitcoin, they're trying to push this narrative of that the main value with crypto is this digital scarcity aspect. But the hex narrative is more that, no, it's actually fine if we're printing value, as long as that money printing is going towards positive game theory behavior, so that you're rewarding good actors. And what I mean with a bull run in money printing in crypto is, we may see various kind of systems that are doing this, but with other sorts of game theory. For example, the way the Hex smart contract is working and with its money printing system is, it's giving most coins towards holders that are doing positive game theory by telling the smart contract that they're going to lock up these coins for this amount of time, and then the smart contract is paying them. But there are also other ways you can do this money printing concept. For example, with DTube, where you have professional video content creators, and you are going to have DTC whales, DTC coin whales, and there you have another way of also doing this, where you have, if you have professional video content creators that are producing new goods, in this case in the form of professional videos and video content, we can inflate the currency and we can reward those people with more coins, and we can really print a lot. And we're seeing this also with Hex, where you have this very interesting game theory of, we're seeing that the stake rate in Hex is going down, and the more it is going down, the more is being printed to the staker class. But it seems like you can actually print a lot of value as long as you have clever game theory. So in traditional economies, everyone is looking at, okay, printing 7 or 8% profit and so on, it's pretty standard. But I think in crypto, we can probably print way more than in those traditional economies, because when once stuff is virtual, people can make faster moves. Like we can produce more goods and services that are more value. We can get better game theories that are producing so much more value that printing more value to people that are doing something positive is probably pretty fine. So why can you probably print way more in the hex smart contract than, for example, in traditional economies? Well, one aspect to that is that we're rewarding people that stay loyal to the system by the aspect of that people that emergency end stake, they have to pay a lot to the staker class that are more loyal, and also that people that are more loyal and are more in it for the long term, they also are still sitting on a better share price than people that get in later. So these aspects that you can do with smart contracts makes it so you may actually be able to print so much more than what you can do in traditional economies. And as I said, mainly because it's virtual, you can experiment more with a lot of things. It's the same as with DTube, how they're printing to real professional video content creators. And if there's a game of crypto, if it's mainly about holding, that holding is the main value. So if we take D2, for example, if you would have professional video content creators that are paying other professional video creators, then both have massive incentive to hold the coin because it is producing more value. People have been experimenting with doing this social media plus crypto in the past, for example, with Steam, but it hasn't really worked out that well. And my theory why is because you never had really super professional content creators. But we're gonna have that with DTube, and then we're gonna see how that works with video. And video is also faster format than what Steam tried with like blogging content, which I would say is even more harder for most people to become good at, because most people are not training themselves daily to be good kind of bloggers and writers. So will HEX start a bull run of money printing, and can that become the new narrative that it's really fine to print as long as you have interesting game theory? I actually think that that actually may happen, because the way I see this kind of play out is now when we're going to have this new narrative and we can see that, oh, it seems like you can actually print a lot with HEX and it's really fine. It's not really hurting it's not really hurting the staker class or the people that are involved long term. If it can prove that you can print and it's really fine, then the old narrative doesn't really make any sense anymore. This concept of the magical Bitcoin, and that there's only 21 million coins, and that this brings massive value in the long term. It's almost like we can consider, it's almost like, okay, the Bitcoin guys, they almost believe, okay, we want to be a little bit better than digital gold or than real gold, and maybe they can do it eventually, even though they haven't even come close so far. So gold is around 10 or 11 trillion, I think, at the moment. Bitcoin hasn't even reached 1 trillion. It hasn't even reached 10% of gold. But even if it would reach, like, even if it would go up to maybe 10% or 30% higher than gold, I still don't really think that that is where we're trying to go with computing power and so on. Hex is more, it's more trying to do, I would say, 100x gold, like really seeing what works in the real world. And what do we have in the real world? Well, we have derivatives, we have banking services that offering services like, I think, certificate of deposit are in the multiple trillions in the real world, and Hex is trying to see what they're doing and like do it in a smart contract. And if you're looking at the performance of the smart contract, how it has been performing the last 6 months, it seems like something is working. I haven't really seen any big flaws. It seems it's everything seems to be going pretty fine. So it's so if you have this new narrative, it seems like it's kind of going to break up the kind of old narrative, because if so Hex is not trying to be a little bit better than something that's already out there. I mean, it tries to be exponentially better, and that's kind of exciting because there is not that many other people that are kind of looking at it in those kind of terms. And my own experience, like the way I look at computing power and the way the people using the internet, personally, that has been doing videos on YouTube since 2011 professionally. I've always feel when you are a video creator since 2011 on YouTube, you see how scale works. So you see that once a video is being created, people can watch it forever, and you get this kind of scale effect where you can just create it, you put it online, and then people can consume it forever. Like, you have videos that people are watching that you maybe created 10 years ago, and you get this kind of cool scale effect. And my personal experience of buying new computers, so I have a brand new MacBook Pro, this 16-inch model that came out around 6 months ago, and also having a brand new smartphone, the Galaxy S20 Ultra, and the Galaxy S10 Plus. The experience of using these devices, I can see how exponential computing power is. How now really what all we need, like with devices, when everything works so good, is we just need, especially in crypto, we just need clever game theory that reward positive behaviors. So you basically need to exponentially reward people that are doing the right actions. And for example, a lot of social medias that has tried this with like DPoS, they have failed to exponentially reward people that stay super engaged. And you basically need to have these exponential reward systems where those guys that are exponentially paying attention to something with their daily activity, they need to get way more rewards than people that are not operating at that level. And if you can make that happen, then you can get this very, very cool scale effect to happen, because when you give a lot of rewards to people that are exponentially competent in whatever now they're doing, you get and people that are super talented at scale. For example, I had a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers getting. Most people are not that competent at like getting 1 million YouTube subscribers. So if you can get more value into those people that are kind of doing cool and interesting things, more cool and interesting things are going to keep happening. And what I'm seeing happening with crypto now, when we have this new printing narrative, it's going to be very interesting because it's kind of going to free people up a lot, I think. They're going to have way more time to consider what really matters. And a big thing that's really going to matter with this new money printing, crypto money printing narrative is, okay, so first we're going to get way more people inside of this industry because it's going to be way more exciting because they don't have to go and look at charts. They can just have logic. So the Hex smart contract is living on top of Ethereum network. You can go and inspect the code, and you can see the logic is working perfect, and it's just working like a machine. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So it frees humans up in this new narrative, so they don't have to always consider these petty things. Oh, now something goes up, now something goes down. And what I think is going to happen then is, like, one of the biggest value a human now can do is trying to connect people together, so they're being more collaborative and like working together. So for example, I did a video about an ETH social media app called Touch Social. And after I did that video, they started to follow me on Twitter, which is kind of cool. So you can see how you can, like, so I think it's more about, like, when people now have more free time, it's more about trying to connect people together and trying to get everyone on board on using the same kind of networks. So ETH social media, I find pretty interesting how it may work, because it gives you access to be on the same chain as Hex is. So you can use Uniswap and go from one ERC20 token like maybe a social media token eventually, like Touch Social. They're just experimenting a little bit now with doing a token on Uniswap and having an app on Android and Apple devices. But it's cool that they're experimenting with doing stuff on the ERC with the ERC20 format, because ERC20 format has been pretty boring, pretty lame these first couple of years because we didn't really have a good DEX. And but now, if you really start to have a good, really real decentralized exchanges, and Uniswap is working pretty amazing at the moment with that. If you really start to have that, then that's going to bring so much more value to Ethereum, and it's going to bring so much more value to humans, how they don't have to deposit their coins to a centralized exchange anymore. And a lot of these cool little things are going to open up interesting worlds, because if people are printing their own value with logic, as in the HEX smart contract, and then can move into a cool kind of social media and kind of play around with that, it's gonna be very, very interesting, because you're gonna have people do way more transactions or value flows that are going to, they can flow into interesting possibilities. And since very few people are inside of this industry at the moment, it makes it so you can truly stand out pretty fast. And that I like to see the possibility. So we haven't really had that much working. I mean, the first run up here, 2017, kind of sucked pretty hard, because it was very, very hard to get into the ecosystem, and it still is, because you have to work with these horrible companies that are like an exchange when we're trying to stop using these guys. So it's going to be interesting with these first HEX guys, because I think they're going to have some value that they can kind of experiment with eventually, to see, okay, what are they supposed to do with this value. And I think a lot of it's going to be about trying to build cool brands and trying to build working things that maybe work on the same chain. And yeah, that's going to be interesting. So money print narrative is very interesting. So you have a lot of cool things here. So not only do we get like better smart contracts that can do a lot of logic based tasks, but then people are going to keep getting new, faster computers. They're going to get faster smartphones. So Samsung's always working on making smartphones better, and Apple is always working on building faster computers. And so people are going to have these faster devices, right? And then they just want to use something that is kind of working on the same chain, I guess. Because if you can do everything on the same chain, and all the tokens are on the same chain, and it seems like Ethereum is the only guys that are trying to do this at the moment, it seems like you're going to have one of these giant chains where all the kind of cool stuff is happening on. And probably a lot of these earlier ERC20 coins, they're probably going to fade away. And a lot of these new coins, I mean, it's like very interesting with brands and so on, because I think that the HEX brand is pretty amazing. I think the DTC brand is also pretty amazing. If you can build more cool, awesome brands that people want to be associated with, I think that's going to be pretty epic. And it's going to be interesting to see what do we really need tokens for. And because a lot of things that people are trying to do with tokens, they're not that smart ideas, and they don't really have any markets. It can be a challenge to find real markets and see what actually needs tokens. Or, I mean, cool brands, you have so much possibilities of building more new cool brands, but are people dedicated to do it? Is a very good question. But one thing I think at least we can say about this new computing power decade is it's going to be this aspect eventually. It's probably going to feel very normal eventually, that yeah, we can actually print new value pretty easy now, because we have smart contracts and they just use logic, and logic is quite fine. Yes. So eventually everyone should want to print their own kind of coins, because if these hex people, they're printing their own value already right now daily, and DTC people, they're going to do the same, it seems like eventually everyone's just going to print their own value because nobody really wants to get left behind. And Bitcoiners would get left behind if they don't print their own money using logic. And XRP guys would also be left behind because they believe the value is going to come from liquidity, but it seems like it doesn't really seem to make that much sense. Yeah, so printing is cool. The share price, getting a good share price in HEX is cool. HEX is fun. A lot of those other things in crypto is not that fun. So that is what I want to talk a little bit about today. So yeah, I mean, the core aspect is I think we're starting new narratives here now, and that these are going to be the largest coins probably when we start 2021 and move further into this new kind of cool computing power decade. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what computers can do. Have an awesome day, DQ.